We'll go ahead and get started. I don't, we just had one item on there and I asked, we had talked about looking at it at the end of the school year, but it was something that came kind of pressing and we were having a challenge getting some positions filled over at the middle school. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Taylor to look at this. Came up as a request actually in August.
So I'm going to start on the bottom. So I'm going to scroll down to the page 2 where it says middle school assistant coaches.
Am I on the right page?
Yep, we'll come back to the top part.
Okay.
If you scroll, might be page 3. I apologize. There you go. So our middle school athletic director approached me. We have all our middle school sports run 12 weeks, and he was having a discussion with one of his coaches of kind of justifying why are some of our sports paid $1,876 a season and why are others paid $2,032. And so after the evaluation, he came to Jason and I and proposed that we move all middle school sports to the $2,032 amount. All sports run the same seasons. Yes, there are different coaches that coach each season or each sport, and so some sports might have 2 coaches, other sports might have 4 or 5. However, it's justified by the number of students. So he came forward and he recommended all but volleyball intramurals are paid $2,032. Volleyball intramurals are just a different sport. They're not comparable to the rest. And so he felt very justified in keeping that one at the recommended $1,876.
Well, they don't run the practices. I think when we originally, because we set those up all based on the length of the season, was what we'd set them up for. So if the length of season must have changed as they switched around some of the conferences or the sport structure.
Correct. So all of our
sports, it wasn't an intentional slight, like
no. They all run six weeks, and the coaches split duties amongst each other. So if you look at our handbook, the head coach for all sports is listed at the high school, with assistants at the high school, and then middle school. We could just consider all coaches here assistant because they all spread the duties out equally amongst each other. So when Jason and I reviewed, we did review, does this put any pressure on the high school sports? What does that look like? And so there's a link, if you scroll down, Jason, there's a link that compares the high school head coach to the high school assistant coach to the middle school coach, just to be sure we weren't putting unnecessary pressure. Our middle school coaches weren't paid above our high school coaches. Thoughts, comments, concerns on middle school sports?
Did you say these run 12 weeks or 6 weeks?
I'm sorry, 6 weeks.
I mean, it's still less than the high school system, but I believe the high school seasons are longer than 6 weeks.
Yeah. I'm sorry, if you ask your question, middle school is 6 weeks, high school varies by sport.
Greatly.
Greatly, yes. Some are 6 weeks, some are longer.
And the high school sports, the dollar amounts were based on the length of the season when we established those.
And how many coaches are we paying to these categories? Do we know? Yeah.
So the impacts in blue, we have 3 cross country coaches. We have 2 gymnastics coaches. We have 3 middle school coaches, 3 wrestling coaches, and 5 track coaches. So the total additional cost by moving these sports from $1,876 to $2,032 is $2,028. if we are feeling okay about the recommendation about middle school coaches, since we had both of your time and we wanted to review with the committee, 4 additional clubs that would like to be added to the docket this year. First club is middle school HOSA. That club is very comparable with middle school FFA, so that is being recommended at a stipend of $1,500. STEM club was a very popular club prior to COVID. COVID made, just as a result of COVID, the club kind of disbanded for a temporary amount of time. And now this school, there's 2 advisors. They are excited to bring the club back. Students are very excited. And so that club is being reinstated at the same stipend amount that it was at prior of $2,032 per year. Chess club is wildly successful. I think we have 66 students, at least last year, we had 66 middle school students interested. And so we'd like to formalize that club. We'd like to assign a stipend of, starting a stipend of $938. And the last club that we're looking to add this year is an official yearbook advisor at CCA. So it's very exciting for CCA to have that now. Students working with a dedicated teacher, and that is a recommended stipend starting at $938.
Do we know what the head count is for STEM and is that?
I don't offhand. The middle school principal, he compares the clubs to other like clubs in the building, so when he makes the recommendation.
I don't think they've started that. I think they had. What? I don't think they've started the club
For
yet,
this
so they
year.
wouldn't know the numbers, yeah.
Yeah.
I would guess we'll go easily,
It's hard
I
to-
think it's 60 plus.
The high school advisors for HOSA and FFA are very highly involved in middle school, starting to grow that program and create that pipeline. So that's why the HOSA one was formalized this year as well.
Yeah, I was worried though, see if he knows I just got your text message. You gave me about 5 minutes late. You're having trouble logging in.
Actually, I was,
so-
Yeah, I couldn't.
actually, I was a minute early. Maybe 5 minutes late.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, once
I love
again,
my cell service.
pulling it down over. That's kind of where I was at. I'm trying to log in from my desk and I'm like, come on. And I have to use my tablet on my school tablet. And it's, that's my Wi-Fi.
How many students are in STEM club? Are you participating in STEM club? Question mark. Is that Eric and Steve advising STEM club or?
Gina and Erica.
Gina Rand and
Erica.
Erica? If it's Erica's involved, it'll probably be, 60 to 100 kids, I guess. And Jenna does a nice job.
I'm just floored by the number of folks. I haven't seen this list before. I don't recall seeing this list before. Staff are involved in this, in these, I mean, you mentioned the coaches, but does it depend on number of students involved? And then are each of the advisors being paid this dollar amount?
So if you see how everything listed here will be one person, so let's just take, let's just say for middle school HOSA, there's 2 people splitting that stipend, so it's $100 or $1,500 total. It would go split 2 ways.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a couple here that the clubs are so large, like Make Your Fair Coordinator, that says 2 individuals, so it's $3,500 going each individual.
Okay, but otherwise the stipend
Otherwise they're
person
split.
is
That
split.
is the total amount
Got it.
going to that
Okay.
club.
If it's a supervision of kids, we try to always stay 2B, that's just best practice. And any club or organization, or like Boy Scouts, or you just don't put adults supervising the kids in a scenario like that.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure that there's a
And
number
this-
ratio allowable that if you, even if you have 2 people and there are 75 kids, do you at some point make a mark of saying, if we need a third advisor?
We do, and then it varies from activity to activity, sport to sport. There's certain sports that you need a higher amount of supervision depending on the dynamics and
Right,
the
you had said,
travel.
right,
Yeah.
you had said that as well, so, okay, I guess I wasn't equating it to other points.
Yeah.
I think the other variable is this program and the coach involvement with that. I'm thinking back years ago, like HOSA was not a very big activity for students. That changed significantly, probably when Steph Stanky started getting involved with that. It's a huge program now.
Yeah, and when you see like a stipend that's $5,000, that means that club is running year round on a regular basis, meeting regularly throughout the year. Because that's what that's the amount, because we looked at all the stipends based on an hourly rate and how many times we were meeting, they have to put together a calendar and so forth. So that's our top paid one, that's for the organizations that go year round and meet regularly all throughout the year. And like Bill said, HOSA originally wouldn't have been at that level. It expanded and got to that level. Yeah, so if anyone ever asks, and then it does come up, that's why we moved to how often do you meet? How much time is it? Because people would say, well, you don't value my program as much as the other, or that's why this person makes. No, that has nothing to do. It's not a value judgment. It's how often are you meeting? What's the time commitment? Because that's agnostic in regards to the value or what we think about our program. It's how often are you meeting? What's the time commitment? So we try to align them all to that. And it also helps, like if an advisor changes and Skills USA ends up not meeting as much or putting in that amount, then we can adjust it down based on that formula. Questions, thoughts, or? I don't know, I mean, more long-term as it relates to this type of compensation. And I mean, we have nice round dollar amounts, but I don't know. Like they typically don't get included in the regular wage increases or something like that. So what ends up happening, I think it's probably happened once or twice since I've been here. There's no increases for years and years, and then it creates this critical mass where coaches are upset because the market has shifted, and like Badger's paying head coaches X amount of dollars, and then we do a market comparison. I don't know if it would be good for us as a personnel committee to do whether it's every 3 years or if it's, you know, something that it just gets included to whatever that total package increase is. So there's an increase each year, or from a budgeting standpoint, it would probably help, and or for us to be just to build it in. That
I think we would be remiss if we didn't. I mean,
I think
That makes sense.
sometimes we'll try to get comparable data, you know, area school districts, extracurricular schedule, and compare it.
Yeah.
It's not always real simple. Some positions are pretty standard and some are, you know, take a little more.
right, and depending on the school, they may have, you know, like we have seen in our own district, flow of interest and things like that. I, like I said, I think we would be remiss if we didn't include some kind of regular study in terms of, so we don't get slammed. I mean, we're not gonna do a referendum, so we're gonna feed the flame.
Yeah, and I think this, where to put it, this tradition of not looking at co-curriculars originally, and I don't know, Bill might disagree with me on this, but I think it stems back to collective bargaining.
It does.
Because the unions never wanted any of the negotiated dollar amounts to go to co-curriculars.
Well, sure.
And so, because the coaches were widely outnumbered, and so when you looked at the total package increase, they would never allow for it to get put on the
Mhm.
co-curricular positions. So it just kind of established this pattern where those wages didn't get increased until it hit this critical mass standpoint. And so I don't know, we've just never really worked it back in, yeah. But was that your experience here too? That they
Yeah,
never want-
even in my previous life, it was always that way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sometimes they try to build in language that would tie it to like the salaries, get like a percent of the salary base increase would automatically flow. But then the rationale they used to use sometimes was, we want to get the most for the most. In other words, it benefits everyone as opposed to certain groups.
Instead of for those that were putting in extra time. and effort.
Yeah, and that's a union thing, so.
And as a young coach, when I was a teacher and a young coach, I'm like, really? Why? Yeah, okay, guys. All right. Do we need approval from this committee, Taylor, or what are we? or is
So
something
this is
just
going
for
to
the
be a
board?
revision to the handbook, so ultimately, if this committee, accepts this, we take it to the school board on the 28th and it become official. We are making a recommendation for the middle school coaches, because fall season's already basically coming to a close here. We are making the recommendation that it is backdated to the start of the school year, if it is approved, that the amount would go to 2,000 for all sports, all middle school sports.
Is all right with that?
And the amount of time they put in this
Yeah.
far outweighs.
I
What percentage of students participate in extracurriculars? I think that's a great measure of,
85.
that's amazing.
But, and in large part, it's why we do have so many clubs, and we switched to that. Usually where we put a process in place where students and our advisors can propose a club and an organization. When I came to Elkhorn and we first looked at that data point, it was 51%, 52%, and that was part of that board goal for redefining ready. Co-curricular participation is a huge indicator of school success and afterwards, whether it's sports or clubs. And so that was kind of where we built this infrastructure to allow for more of those opportunities. I don't know, we don't have the Japanese anime club still,
No,
right?
I don't think so.
But that was huge for a little while, you know, and they come, some of them ebb and flow, and
Right.
there's an interest there, but
Yeah, that makes sense.
when it goes away, we collect.
Okay, so there is that, and I mean, so there is a procedure practice in place to do that.
For like the
Okay.
club proposals, yeah.
Right, exactly, okay, so to collapse, like you said, or to combine. I don't know if there are things that would allow for that.
Yeah, but yeah, we're 80, in fact, the middle school might be even higher than 85%. I don't recall, but I think that was the high school's at 85%. We've kind of hit that seems like we can't break past that part. But that's a lot of kids involved in something. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, things like, esports was our, I don't know if it is now, but it was our highest number of sport participants. It had over 100 kids a couple years ago. And that's 10% of the whole high school. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. All right, that's all we have. We adjourn.
Thank you.